Thank you, Last Karen Corla, and apologies, I was having some IT, so I don't have the comprehensive speech I was going to make, but Minister, if I could just cover off some points that this bill is proposing. And essentially, obviously, it is talking about the need for emergency backup electricity generators, which we passed back at the turn of the year. But what it fails to do at the end of the day is highlight the very slow rate that we have done in terms of trying to deliver renewables into the country and to provide warmer homes initiatives. And there are two significant deficits that we have in the economy. And I'd like to give great credit to my colleague here, Dennis Naughton, who for the last number of years has been promoting the idea of converting some of our redundant power stations, namely Lanesborough and Shannon Bridge, using biomass in the purpose of generating up to 250 megawatts of electricity annually. And this would have been done by incentivising farmers to grow 10,000 acres of willow. And it would also mean that we could take forestry thinnings to produce electricity. And the government completely just refused to look at that proposal on the basis of the Climate Action Plan. And yet here we are now today, and we're going now to implement diesel electricity generation backup at Tarbert in order to try and give us some kind of backup to electrical generation. And we have been remiss, Minister, in terms of rolling out the wind development policy. MARA is still not instituted. And to that point, Minister, I might take a point to you about the community dividend, which I'm not sure where that lies in terms of legislation, but I had a meeting recently with some of the people involved with wind, and the community dividend for the South Coast, as I understand it, for one of the large farms, would be approximately between €1 and €1.5 million per annum for 15 years. Wholly inadequate, Minister, considering a total outlay maybe of over €1 billion on a project like that. So I would ask you, before these licensers are looked at, that you look at that aspect of the licensing framework. Your own office, Minister, is responsible for the Warmer Homes initiative. And unfortunately, there's a stellar underperformance there. And in 5 years, we've seen the average cost go from €3,450 in 2017 to €22,000. So we are certainly providing probably greater infrastructure. Hard to know how much greater. And I think Deputy Naughton already outlined some of the issues that he had when trying to apply for the scheme. But what is absolutely clear is that we are not keeping up with the rate of demand. And this was a significant commitment given by government in terms of this scheme, that we would be able to roll this out. And it's patently clear we're running at less than 50% of the applications per year, and that the costs are rising, Minister. And again, this is something that you have to look at. And I see on a note here that there's additional people resourcing to be given to SEAI, but we have a problem, a very significant problem in construction in this country in terms of trying to recruit people for jobs. It was highlighted when that policy was brought in that we would be competing. Two sectors, construction and the retrofitting scheme, would be competing for labour, and that's exactly what's happening, and it's pushing up the price. And again, Minister, maybe it's for the Department of Enterprise, we need to start looking at trying to bring in skilled labour from abroad, and we need to look at changing our work permit system to allow us to bring in labour. Otherwise, we're just going to keep on raising the cost of these schemes, and this is all going to come back on the taxpayer. And finally, Minister, can I say the point that was already made, which is about that hard-pressed families are now paying for this change in climate agenda. We are now asking people, having put charges and levies on people's electricity bills for carbon capture, proposed carbon sequestration, the development of renewables energy, we're now asking them to pay for diesel generation. And we're happy to set aside our environmental planning, our environmental laws to make that a reality, Minister. I think that's not a very positive step. And I would like to also highlight the amendment that Deputy Naughton is bringing, which is the need for a sunset clause, Minister, to this legislation. I would certainly endorse that for 12 months, because I do not think we can have this runaway development of diesel generating backup. Minister, we have to give impetus to renewables. We have to find a way to incentivise and to accelerate solar development in this country and offshore wind development in this country, and we need to do it far more quickly than we do. That's what will give us some relative security in terms of energy supply. But as I say, Minister, in terms of Deputy Naughton's amendment, I think it's absolutely paramount that we have a sunset clause to this legislation.